Hi, it's Jarrett from the Touring Camper, and we're finally getting some work done on Tilly. And what took us so long is I needed some stretches of nice days to seal things up. You can see right here I have a blue piece of tape on the camper because I realized that these gold panels that are all the way around, we actually had water coming down in the top of these gold panels. So I realized not only was I going to have to seal around windows, I'm going to have to seal the tops of the gold panels, we're going to have to seal on the mid-rib down here. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple steps of what I'm doing. So I've had a couple different putty knives, and if we come in a little closer here, Kristen, this putty knife here that you see, just a typical putty knife, I did not find it to be very useful at all. So I actually have one of this putty knife here. It's actually designed to clean paint brushes, but because it has this real sharp tip on here and then a nice square edge here, it's been working really, really well. So I'm going to show you how I take some of this old caulk off, and then once I take the old caulk off, we'll show you in a couple other areas where I'm taping it up, how I'm putting the caulk on, and then some finished product. So that's how we're working on the 1976 Silver Streak. So Kristen's going to zoom in here a little bit. And basically what I do is I kind of have the putty knife and I move nice and slow along the body of the camper, behind the caulk, trying to just scrape along there, and it kind of lifts it right out, the old caulk, and then I flip the putty knife over and I go right along the edge of my window. And by doing that, this old caulk pretty much just comes right up out of there. Now you have to take it nice and slow so you don't miss and scrape the side, or when you're moving up, you kind of use different angles. I've sometimes found it's better to use the pointed edge, sometimes I find it's better to use the square edge. It's just kind of a trial and error process of going, and you can kind of see there, it just comes out pretty easily. You just kind of move along an edge as far as I can, kind of like that, and then I come back through with the other edge and kind of just lift it right out. So you can kind of see that just comes right out of there. I've been doing it around all the lights. I've been doing it around as much as I can where I think water is going to run down the camper and run in. I'm removing all that, and then we're going to put some sealant on the other side. Alright, so one of the other things the Silver Streak has is they have these weep holes. And when they designed them in the 1970s, the idea was this was going to allow any water that was between the insulation and the inner skin here to evaporate out. Well, they came out with a bulletin, late 70s or probably early 80s, that said these didn't work as Silver Streak had designed them. So they told their owners to actually caulk them shut. Well, in the day and age of caulking things shut, everyone used silicone caulk. Silicone and this anodized aluminum are not good combinations, and it is really hard to get off. So typically what I would do is I would take my putty knife and I would try to scrape up through and get as much of it out as I possibly could. And then I'm using this Goo Gone caulk remover. There's professional things you can get on Vintage Trailer Supply, but this one I just found at Lowe's. And I just simply sprayed it on, and I let it sit there for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then I would come back through with a small little razor blade and take my time and just kind of scrape up in there and try to get as much of that caulk, silicone caulk, out as I could. Down here where you've got the gold ribbing, I had to very carefully work up between these seams so that I didn't scratch that gold ribbing as best I possibly could. And then the Scotch-Brite pads, I kind of came through with the Scotch-Brite pads, and that also helps to kind of take off any little flecks towards the end without scratching anything up. Now I am going to put the TremPro 365, we'll show you that here in another segment of the video, but I will put TremPro back up in here and I will seal them up, but I'm just not going to be using the silicone. Alright, and we're back, and as you can see, the entire side from about the bottom of the windows up has got a bunch of blue tape on it. And my goal there is so that when I put this caulk on, it's a special TremPro stuff, I can pull the tape off and I can get nice, clean, easy edges as I go along. So this side's all scraped. So what I'm using is TremPro 635. You can get it from Vintage Trailer Supply. You cannot get it on Amazon. I tried, but you couldn't find it on Amazon. So go to vintagetrailersupply.com to get this. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just start working my way down any of the seams that I've already scraped out of. I've got a real fine bead, and then I'll wipe it with my finger, wipe it off on the rag, and then pull the tape as I go. So I'm gonna start. All right, as I've been caulking, I've learned a couple things. One of the things that I've learned is I now do double tape on everything. That way, whenever I put this bead of caulk down, it will go on both sides. And then what I can do, if Kristen comes in close, I'll show you with just this little bit of caulk. So I put a bead of caulk in there, and then I can take my finger and I can literally just run my finger down it real quick like that. And then whenever I pull the tape off, it makes real nice clean lines, and I'll show you that as I cut to the next video. But one of the other things that I learned, and this is a great tip, so I took a sock and I rolled a sock up, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of caulk down in there. But when I get the caulk on my fingers, I kept messing with the rags, so then I can just roll this sock up like that, and then I've got a clean area right there that I can wipe my finger on, just like that. And as I go, I keep just rolling the sock up. So that little tip right there has been immensely helpful in me staying clean as I've been doing this whole process. All right, as you saw, I had double tape on, and now I'm pulling the tape off, and here's why I put the double tape on. You can see right here, I've already pulled the top line off, and I've got a nice clean line. And then as I pull the bottom one off, you're gonna see that there's a nice clean line on this gold panel, but I've got a nice edge that has sealed, so you can get a nice edge as you go. So that is why I double tape on both sides of where I'm caulking. All right, so here's the finished product. I've done the whole front cap. You can see on this window here, I've gone under this. I've done in the bottom seam of this and up the side and around the top and around the clearance lights. So that's kind of a finished product. Sorry, we're struggling with the sun here a bit. And I've come down this seam here as well. So that's what the finished product looks like. I am noticing some shrinking of the TremPro just a little bit. So I am gonna have to make sure I go back and go over it, make sure there aren't any spots that I have to hit. But as long as I get it nice and thick in there, I think it's working pretty well. So we'll see how well it does with the water.